Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sanctuary. I'm Mike Robertson. How about that intro music? I didn't know it was quite so techno. I hope you didn't disco yourself to work up a sweat this morning, but I'm glad you're here anyway, and I appreciate you setting aside some time each Sunday morning to still get together with your Sanctuary family. You will always be part of our community. We always want to know how you're doing and that everything is well with you. Please keep in touch with me if you need to. I don't have my email address on the screen this morning, but hopefully you know it by now. It's Mike Robertson at sanctuaryaustin.com. Pretty simple. No underscores, no spaces. Mike Robertson at sanctuaryaustin.com. Love to know how you're doing. If you have suggestions, if you have wishes or hopes or dreams or questions of any kind, please feel free to share them. Also want to encourage you to check out Mac Bynum's music. There's several songs posted below this on our YouTube page. Mac has his own YouTube page and a Facebook page, and I'd encourage you to drop in either or both of those places to see some more of his music. He lives in a spot where internet connectivity is not always optimal, and sometimes it's very hard for him to upload his music so I can get it in time to add it to our service or post it here on Sunday morning when most people are watching. So check out his stuff online, leave him a comment, tell him how much you love him, how much you appreciate him. I know that will mean a lot to him. Let's see. I had something new to announce to you here on day 747, but every week is running into each other, isn't it? So I guess I should get to the message today because it has something to do with that idea. The message today, which you probably already saw the title of it, is called Nothing New Under the Sun. And you may not know it, but that's a biblical reference, nothing new under the sun. It comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1. It's in the beginning of the first chapter of Ecclesiastes. And I got to tell you, this passage of scripture is the most depressed, most bored passage in the Bible, maybe. Well, why would you share that? Well, aren't you bored? Are you depressed? Aren't you tired of the same old thing? So was the guy who wrote this scripture. I want to share it with you and then see what we can find, what message of hope we can find from this really downer of a scripture. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 starts off like this. Smoke, nothing but smoke. There's nothing to anything. It's all smoke. What is there to show for a lifetime of work? A lifetime of working your fingers to the bone. One generation goes its way, the next one arrives, nothing changes. It's business as usual for old planet Earth. The sun comes up and the sun goes down, then it does it again and again, the same old round. The wind blows south, the wind blows north, around and around and around it blows, this way, then that, the whirling, erratic wind. All the rivers flow into the sea, but the sea never fills up. The rivers keep flowing to the same old place and then start all over and do it again. Everything's boring, utterly boring. No one can find any meaning in it. Boring to the eye, boring to the ear. What was will be again. What happened, it'll happen again. There is nothing new under the sun. Year after year, it's the same old thing. Does anyone say, hey, this is new? Don't get excited. It's the same old story. Nobody remembers what happened yesterday. And the things that will happen tomorrow, nobody will remember them either. Don't count on being remembered. Wow, what a cheery beginning, right? Wow. This writer is obviously sick and tired of the same old, and it sounds a lot to me like being stuck in your house for day after day after day after, well, you get it. You know somewhat of what he was feeling. What do we do when it's the same thing over and over and over again, and it seems like we're never going to get out of it? Well, one of the things I dislike about the quarantine era is it's very hard for me to have new experiences. Those of you who have heard me speak know I am a storyteller. And if I can't have new experiences, I don't get new stories. And if I don't have new stories, I end up having to pull something out of the trunk and do a rerun on Sunday morning. So I was looking this week and I found something that inspired me. I was on YouTube right here where we are now, and I came across something that's called a first listen video. Sometimes they're called first reaction videos. And these videos, and there are a lot of them. I've watched a lot of them this week. They usually consist of one or two young people. And these young people are listening to some classic rock song. And then they react to it in real time. They tell what they think about it. Their reactions are always fun to watch as they experience some great songs for the first time. The first one I came across was a guy listening to Good Vibrations for the first time. And another popular one is they listen to songs by Steely Dan or Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. And almost always they end up looking delighted and surprised. This young lady right here, that face she's making right there is when she has just said, "Boy, I wish I had lived in the 70s." Or, "I'm so jealous of my parents getting to have all this good music." I always want to grab them when I watch one of these videos and they get to a moment like that where they're like, "This is not at all what I expected. This is so good. Listen to that groove. It's so smooth." When they get to that point, I always want to grab them and say, you could have listened to that anytime. It's out there. It was a hit. It sold millions of copies. It's not something that was hidden from you. But there is a very real and unfortunate tendency to disregard or devalue anything that's not new or current or hip. If I made a list of my 10 favorite movies of all time, probably half of those movies would be black and white films from the 30s and 40s. But there are a lot of people, and not just young people either, that won't even watch a movie if it's in black and white. What a loss that is. To deprive yourself of great movies or great music or great books or great people just because they're not from your generation. If you only hang around with people who think exactly like you, there's very little growth to be gained from that. There's very little stretching of your intellect and your imagination and your creativity. Don't deprive yourself of something amazing just because it was before your time, because it didn't happen in the last 2 weeks. Many of the best things in life are not new, but the best things endure, and they endure for a reason. This writer in Ecclesiastes, he was tired of the sun coming up and down. He was tired of the rivers flowing to the ocean. But how would he have felt if those things ceased for even one day? Those old things, many of them are good and important and meaningful and amazing. But those old things also require attention if they are to continue. If these old marvels are neglected or devalued, they start to decay. They start to fade away. Make no mistake, though, just because something is old doesn't mean it's a classic. Yeah, it's true. My generation had Good Vibrations, but my generation also had "They're coming to take me away, ha ha, they're coming to take me away, ho ho." Remember that song? Not everything old is great. That same year that movie theaters were showing The Wizard of Oz, that was 1939. Many critics say that was the best year in movie history. You could have gone to see The Wizard of Oz or Stagecoach or Of Mice and Men or Gone with the Wind or Goodbye, Mr. Chips. But in that same year, you could have also paid the same money to see The Terror of Tiny Town, the all-midget Western movie. Oh, and by the way, it was a musical also, the all-midget Western musical. Just because something is old doesn't mean it's valuable or that it was great. The writer of Ecclesiastes complained that nothing ever changed. Well, I don't agree with that. In fact, one of my favorite songs that you probably have never heard, but it's one of my favorites, it's called "Everything Must Change." There are not many things in this world you can be sure of, it says, but there are a few. Even the church, built on this solid rock foundation, has to change over time. Really? How does church change over time? Well, do you know the Catholic Church condemned Galileo for daring to suggest that the earth revolved around the sun? for hundreds of years, they insisted, no, the sun goes around the earth. And it was only in the 20th century that they forgave Galileo and said, he was right. We were wrong. The earth is not the center of the universe. There was a time in many denominations when women would sit on one side of the church and men would sit on the other side of the church. That changed at some point. There was a time when there were only men allowed to be deacons or members of the church council. In many places it's still that way, but in many places it has changed. I remember in my lifetime, there were churches that would kick a person out for being divorced. They would say a divorced person can't teach Sunday school or have a position of leadership. That changed. There was a time in a church I used to be employed by, I read through their old minutes, and I saw that they had kicked people out in the past for dancing, for going to a dance. There were churches, and are still some churches, where the only instruments allowed are a piano and or an organ. Everything else is sinful. Those things have changed over the years. Churches, most churches, have realized we have to adapt. We have to not hang on to something just because it's tradition or because it's been around a long time. So we don't separate by gender anymore in the church. We hopefully don't separate by race anymore in the church. We don't ostracize people who have had a bad marriage. Those are the people we need to be nurturing and ministering to, not shutting the door in their face. Those things have changed. But you know what hasn't changed? Love your neighbor as yourself. That hasn't changed. You know what else hasn't changed? Forgive over and over and over. Not just one time. Keep doing it. You know what hasn't changed? The open arms of Jesus saying, come to me if you're tired, if you're heavy laden. I'll give you rest. These have stood the test of time. They will endure forever. You know what hasn't aged well in the church? Racism, gender inequality, superiority, saying we're okay, you're going to hell. Condemnation of anybody who doesn't believe like we do. We would do well to be rid of all those things. Just because they were tradition, because they were old, doesn't mean they were good. See, the key is in learning to discern what is of lasting value and what is just a temporary thing. Or to put it another way, what is of God and what has been added by human beings. I'll confess, I got a little bit jealous watching those first listen videos. I would love to be able to go back and hear good vibrations for the first time. It's like how I would also love to recall, though, the first time that I learned my sins are forgiven. The first time I learned that God loved me. The first time I learned that I didn't have to worry about this world, that it was under His control. But I also found myself smiling during just about every one of those videos because I knew what they were fixing to hear. I knew what they were going to hear, and I knew how great it was, and I wanted to share that moment with these young people. And then I thought, what if I could share something that wonderful with them? Oh, maybe I can't be the first one to play Bohemian Rhapsody for a millennial, but I might be able to be the first person to show them unconditional acceptance, forgiveness, and love. Because those are real. They're everlasting. They don't change with the times and the fads. The fact that love is eternal and strong, well, that's a song I can sing. Yeah. I've heard it my whole life. The nicest guys always finish last. Look out for yourself, they say. The golden rule is just a thing of the past. People say fighting dirty is the only thing that the world's gonna understand. But not me, not today. 'Cause that's not the way that I play. I say love wins. Love wins, yeah. You can cheat, you can lie, but by and by, love wins, yeah, yeah, love wins. I know it's a cruel, I read the same morning paper as you. I know these are real hard times. Some people never even make it through. Well, it seems like the devil's working overtime, and he's got the upper hand. But hold on, take a look, 'cause I read the end of the book. I know love wins. Love wins, yeah. You better listen, my friend, 'cause in the end, love wins, yeah, yeah, love wins. Oh! Call me naive, call me a fool. I still believe that love is gonna rule. That's right. So I say love wins, yeah, yeah. Love wins, yeah, yeah. Love wins, yeah, yeah. Everybody sing, love wins, yeah, yeah. Love wins, yeah, yeah. Love wins, yeah, yeah. Right there where you're sitting, I want you to sing along with me now. Love wins, yeah, yeah. Love wins, yeah, yeah. Love wins. You can cheat, you can lie, but you see by and by. Yeah, yeah, love wins. Love wins. Listen, my friend, 'cause in the end, love wins, yeah, yeah. Love wins, yeah, yeah. Love wins, yeah, yeah. Love wins. It's old, but it's not boring. It ain't new, but it always wins. Love wins, my friends. Don't be bored with your own life. Start practicing, and you'll see that love wins. I'll see you next time.